Today, we're going to look at a case study of someone with rheumatoid arthritis who has worked with a functional movement coach, which is someone who does similar to physical therapy, but works with the body in a way that it's designed to be moved. And our guest today is Carl Reeder from carlreedercoaching.com. And he's a functional movement coach who works with people with not just rheumatoid arthritis, but people who've had sporting injuries and just problems with their physical abilities across the board. He is a coach within our support forum for our rheumatoid support members. And he is today presenting a case study of a lady with rheumatoid arthritis who worked one-on-one with him and the challenges that she faced with her rheumatoid arthritis, the progress that she made, some of the epiphanies and the breakthroughs that they had together, and overall, the benefits of before and after with working with him. And the reason that we want to do this is that we'll help you to see ways in which you can use physical therapy very functionally to be able to improve your symptoms, reduce inflammation, and restore some range of motion and regain some strength. So, Carl, welcome back to this podcast. It's not your first time, but it's always a pleasure to have you.
Oh, Clint, great to be back, and always enjoy sharing with you guys. And thank you for having me back on again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. It's a case study, as I mentioned. So why don't you start by saying what symptoms did your client or patient, if you like, present with when you first started working with her? And was it face-to-face in person, or was it over Zoom? And set us up for the sort of the scenario.
Yeah, she's a lady. She's 63 years old. She's been struggling with RA for over 50 years, and she actually listened to a podcast we did together on Patterson program, and she just reached out to me. She was going through a flare-up, and she mentioned that she needed some assistance with some movements, and so she got in contact with me, and we set up the online coaching and had a discovery call to see if I was able to help her. And so she was presenting with really bad swollen knees and a stiff neck and shoulder and sore feet. And so those are her symptoms, yeah. And
very interesting. So lots of common areas, especially the swollen knees, is going to get a lot of eyebrows raised, a lot of interest being piqued for people who are listening or watching to this, wanting to know what you did with that. Were you in your discovery call? I don't even know, but do you offer that for free, or is there a small fee to do the discovery call?
No, it's a 15 minutes discovery call where I just ask questions and they get to share their history and just to see if what I do is going to be of any benefit to them and if it's going to work. And also it's great because they can get to so that know, like, and trust me sort of feels that they get an idea of what I do. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a free 15-minute session. Okay, yeah. People should definitely take you up on that and find out whether or not you can help them, basically. We have a questionnaire quite similar for people in our support group. There are some people that, it's not a good fit for. And correct. So you need to, if you're working together closely with someone, you do want to have that sort of feel out. It's like
absolutely,
like these dating apps these days. You want to both swipe right before you go on the date, or it could go all wrong. Now, so what was she hoping to get out of her sessions? What were her expectations before beginning with you? Were they realistic, or did you feel that you would be able to help her with her expectations?
Been having 50 years, she said to me, she's tried many practitioners, she's done many things, many exercise things. So, she was hoping to, I think the big thing was just to find something different that she hadn't tried before. And what really piqued her interest was this learning how to move correctly, something that she hadn't, heard of or been trained to do. And she wanted to be more independent. So take charge of her own health, not having to be reliant on sort of medications. So they would empower her, they would help her to take charge of it. And she loved the idea of maybe creating like new movement habits, something that she could do at home. And so that was a big expectation. And that's exactly down my alley. That's what I do. It's relying on the movements to bring the changes, as opposed to just going through a set of exercises. So that was something that she was really keen to get out of those sessions. And yeah.
It sounds, let me just put on my sort of skeptic's hat for a minute. What if people are thinking, but how can just moving my body a little bit more the way it was designed going to reduce symptoms? It sounds overly simplistic.
Yeah. Well, I think like anything that's been designed, if you use it incorrectly, it just gets destroyed or broken. And if you use it correctly, it's sort of like the body we know, it's just that homeostasis. It's always seeking to bring healing and balance and restoration. So when we move in the way that we're designed to, and especially with our rheumatoid, like loading, it's if you're loading the body incorrectly, if you graunching or twisting or talking, or it's makes a huge difference by just getting those 5-10% load differences or weight center of gravity in the right place and positioning the body correctly. It has a huge difference for people who are struggling with ailments, or particularly RA. If you're 21 and you're fit and fine and you don't really notice a difference, but when you do have pain, you notice it very quickly.
So what did you do? Obviously, you started working together after you had your short chat together. What plan did you put in place up front? I mean, what was the big picture strategy? And then we'll get into the detail, but what was your big picture strategy?
Well, what I said to her is, if you can't go straight into teaching people how to move correctly, because correct functional movements, there needs to be some sort of base level strength. So if you just take someone and you say, look, I'm going to teach you how to move correctly in the first session, you're actually you can do damage, because they don't have the strength to move functionally, or even the what do you call it, the coordination. So we said to her, we want to first build your strength. We want to first also look at activating the muscles, which means improving the brain and muscle communication through very simple movements. This just enhances the functioning of the key muscles we want to work, and then we want to build her baseline core strength, which I always do with all my clients. And then from there, I said to her, then we can start to actually teach you how to move functionally. And that obviously resonated with her, because, because in the past she'd done movements and exercises that sort of the body objected to. So she was also quite nervous about doing exercises. So I said, look, it's very step-by-step process. And, we're going to start off very easily. And we're going to, before we start getting into how to climb stairs, how to get out of a chair, we're going to actually prepare your body for movement. Build up your base level strength, and then we're going to teach you how to move. And that was the plan.
Yeah, beautiful. Give us an idea of the sort of things that you might suggest to a newcomer who wants to start working with you around the core, just so we really sort of give people that sense of understanding of what would they be in for. I know each person is different. So in your case study here that you're walking through, in terms of core strength, we're talking about abdominal, right, area. Is that correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the waist, well, the trunk muscles, but like you said, more specific to the abdominal area. So we all have the same nervous system. So depending on whoever I work with, I always mention that the nerves to the core muscles are like what we talk about T6 to T11, your mid-thoracic, mid-back. So any sort of postural pain, deviation from the norm sort of will impact those nerves, and that then has an effect on your core muscles. So if you're trying to do core strength and you haven't got good communication through those nervous system, then you actually end up straining the back muscles and your neck. And so many of the traditional, conventional sort of exercises today, when you look at planking and all these kind of exercises, they find and they build core strength, but they're not always appropriate for people struggling with RA. So we look at more like very simple exercises done in the chair, using elastic bands, resistance bands, sorry. And it's incredible, because you're able to position people in a comfortable position where they can strengthen their core muscles without actually, if you look at doing sit-ups or something, it often strains the neck, and it starts to impact on the back as well. So what's great about these exercises, you can do them without straining your back. And that's often a big complaint amongst people in general trying to strengthen their core, is they feel their back muscles getting hurt or their hip flexors are getting tight. So,
Yeah, I love it. We can't take anything for granted when you have rheumatoid arthritis. It's almost like your entire body is guilty until proven innocent. You don't know what's sort of out of place, not working well, inflamed, irritated, um, contraindications with one part of the body, and actions that could upset somewhere else.
Correct.
So I'm sure a thorough diagnostic is required to assess the level of starting point.
Yeah. A lot of the core strength though is, which is very interesting for listeners, is that when we work on the core strength, we're then able to then start to make postural changes and spinal changes. So I use the core as a way to decompress the spine. If you look at a lot of the mobility exercises, even in yoga, if I help my yoga clients, I get them to do core strengthening first, then go do yoga. Because when they do the core, it actually unlocks the spine. They can get more greater range of motion, mobility. And that improvement in the spine then translates to better movements, better load on the knees. It's all connected, as you know. So this is where the individual coaching comes in, is like, what part of the spine am I going to look at today, or where we're going to focus our sort of remedial work to help you with the knees. A lot of it's like even just helping the upper body mobility can affect the knees. So it's very specific, but that's where the breakthroughs come in, because often people just can't get through, like they've got to hit a roadblock or they're stuck.
Okay. So you spent some time with her working on her core, and consequently then it works on sort of back posture and so forth.
Correct.
How long do you spend? How many sessions on this? How much homework do people have away from the sessions with you? The frequency of the meetings? Answer that, please, first, and then what do you do after that? Or what did you do?
So we start off with like 2 sessions a week for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the client's needs. And then if it's, in the first week and 2 weeks, it's important because you're building the coordination, and I'm able to really look at address the areas. And then there is homework. So they do their exercises at home. I send them pictures with all the details, like a plan with what they need to do. And it's so important for them to stick to that program, because often they'll do more, or they want to accelerate the process. I know that's quite common, and then they end up sometimes not getting pain, but they said it's my fault, I've done too much. So it's not a lot in the beginning, is to get them used to the movements, but and then I usually advise a day's rest in between, so 3 to 4 days at times a week, but with a day's rest. A lot of people like to be moving every day, so it's been a challenge to just get them to do the maybe basic movements every day, but the strengthening to just give it a day's rest, especially if there's flare-ups. And then it tapers off to once a week. My general plan is 6 weeks with clients, but I have a lot of clients who stay with me for a year, doing twice a week or once a week for a year. It depends on what they need and what they're looking to get out of the session.
Okay. So let's move through now to rolling out the plan for the case study. As we said, we worked on the core area and balance and so on. And then what did you do next? And talk about any, the specifics of what you did next, and some progress and some objections and the whole interaction. Go through that for us.
Well, it starts with chair exercises. So, doing the core we mentioned, and then getting out of the chair. I mean, if you're just getting out of a chair is like a squat. So just helping her to go from out of the chair. And then we started doing weighted, getting out of the chair with weights. And then a lot of resistant band work. So pulling down, like looking at strengthening her arms and the core as well. So those therabands are very useful to, just to help with general strength. We mentioned she had sore neck as well and shoulders. So there was a lot of mobility working through the upper back and neck, and then strengthening her shoulders using those bands. And then from there, I went to actually teaching her how to squat, and how to bend and how to climb stairs, how to get off the floor correctly, sort of everyday practical things that she would be doing, gardening, lifting. That was a huge benefit for her as well, because that's where the pain was coming, getting up and down the stairs. So but now that we had the strength, now that she felt that she was confident to move in that area, then we could then go to that climbing stairs. I don't want to teach climbing stairs when she hasn't got the basic strength to do it correctly. So once she got that, then she was away.
And what were some of the breakthroughs that you saw along the way?
I think the big thing was the big improvement was in the neck, the range of motion and the flexibility. and then just the significant reduction in pain and swelling in the knees, which she mentioned is a key point here, is that the confidence that she had from the strength and knowing what to do, she often would protect herself by stiffening up the joints, which I think is quite common with people with aura. It's like a protective mechanism, and just being able to have that confidence and knowing that the improvements in body awareness, she was able to move the joints more freely, and that obviously then translates into pain relief. And as you know, I've talked about this a few times. You know, it's so important just to get those joints moving. But when you don't know that how to move them, or you haven't got the strength, and then you actually even that whole fear of avoiding pain and movement, it has the opposite effect.
It does. Yeah, there is a downward spiral effect where if you stop exercising to reduce inflammation or to stop feeling pain, then the sensitivity increases and you become ultimately more and more inactive because your abilities go down and down. So we have to find a tolerable level of discomfort when we exercise that isn't damaging. We have to be able to work through that level of discomfort and start with very low discomfort, but keep asking the question of that joint. Can you do this? Can you maybe do this little bit extra for me? What about yesterday? You did that. Can you do this bit more? And you know what? The joint tends to, in most cases, respond well, as long as in your world, it's a functional movement. It's not something where, like a leg extension exercise at the gym, which is completely infunctional. It's something that we're designed to do, which is sit and stand, which is a squat.
Correct. And I think that you make a good point with that pain is that a lot of the clients that I work online struggle to differentiate between what is actually causing the pain. Is it the muscle? Is it the tendon? Is it the joint? So it's so important. And I think that's where the one-on-one comes on, where I'm able to just say, hang on a minute, what do you mean you're feeling pain? Where's the pain? It's here. Okay, hang on, stop. That's actually the joint. Or actually you're compressing your joints. Oh, I thought I was stretching. No, you're not stretching, you're compressing. Or something. And they'll say, well, I feel this. And I say, actually, that's a good pain. No, that's a bad. So helping them in that, because they don't have that understanding. And I've had now over 20 years of working with pain. So I can quickly say, no, that's the wrong type of pain you're getting there. And even though it's a bad pain, keep going. It's getting better, the pain. Now it's gone, the pain. So I know when to push them through the pain or not. And I think that's just that's where the helping helps so much, because you can't do that at home, or you don't want to, just wing it when it comes to pain.
Especially when there's swelling. And so in your case study, you've got the swelling in the knees. And when there is swelling, it's like a whole new card game. The rules are sort of out the window, because some things that may, under normal conditions, be helpful for just about everyone else, when the knee is swollen, it introduces complexity that requires great care and insight to not stir things up.
Correct.
Yeah. So getting swelling reduction in the knees from working with you is a phenomenal outcome. It's hard to shift swelling in the knees. It is. And do you think that she was able to achieve that through the activation of those key soft tissue areas connecting to the knee, or was it more through flexibility? Or what insights do you think, and sort of best guesses do you think are associated with that swelling reduction?
I mean, it's complex. So there's multiple things, but I mean, definitely as you say, even though we know the diet's important, but if it comes to exercise, the core strength is like the miracle cure, I want to call it. And it's because when you get out of a chair, or when your knees, they need that support from the core. Otherwise you overload the knees. So that's a huge thing. I've even found now just doing core strength helps people in their hands. And it's like, how is strength in the core going to affect the rheumatoid in my hands? It's like, I don't know if it's those cytokines that get released in the musculoskeletal muscles that have that because they regulate inflammation. But I had a client the other day, she was just mentioning how like my hands feel so much better and we're doing core strength. And I was just like, I'll be lying to you if I knew exactly how that worked, but the results are there. And so the same with the knees. It's like the the general core strength is important, but also it's the psychological, or the confidence, and the removing that fear of movement. It again has an effect on inflammation. There's just it's amazing how, as I said, it's complicated. That the intricacies in these systems that regulate inflammation. It may have it has obviously the same to do with the muscles as well. But I'll be, and as you say, I guess is it's actually the psychological that effect that exercises are having, the confidence, the freedom to move, it can actually play maybe even a greater role in reducing the knee pain than actually just the movements, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There are complex mechanisms. There is no doubt about it. I have a list of suggestions in my mind that it could be as well, but the bottom line is it helps. I agree that it helps. I used to find my hands used to feel so much better when I would do upper body exercises. So specifically anything for the sort of deltoid punches, anything that involved using the upper body, getting blood flow through the entire limb, right from shoulder to fingertip. And notice that in that position, there's no weight being held through the fingers. As I'm pushing away, all of the pressure is just back into the soft part of the hand.
Yeah.
There's no joint being hurt whatsoever. It's perfectly great for you. So yeah.
And then you get the mobilization of the nerves as well when you do that. So there's a lot going on there, and I love that. It's, in fact, the core exercise we do is like the one that I've shown before, the pulling down to the thing and to your belly button, and it's getting the whole arm working. So
yeah.
But as I say, it's complex, but it's there's definitely the effect that exercise. It's not just the physiological, strengthening of the tendons, and yes, that obviously plays a role and support, but it's what that does to the mind, how that also has a huge tie-in as well. So So she's made great. I mean, just saying to me, climbing up and down the stairs, bending, doing everyday. If you think about getting on the floor, up and down, these are things that we do. We talked about it before, up and down the toilet. Like out of a car, off a desk. It's movements that you do every day, and if you just get those right, it has a huge effect. And just knowing how to do them correctly, I think that's one of the big aha moments she mentioned as well quite a few times was. Just that you don't have to do super difficult, complex exercises to get great results. And I think that's something that a lot of, especially even my sports guys, they say, but your exercises are so basic. At a client told me yesterday that these are so basic exercises, yet they're so effective. And I think that's, especially for RA people, this is so great. You don't have to do complicated movements and strenuous movements to get results.
It's so true. We tend to overthink these things, and especially if we go and get the assistance of, say, the local, physiotherapist who hasn't got any experience with working with complicated or difficult cases like rheumatoid arthritis. And whilst they are probably the greatest if you're just an athlete and you're working and you're trying to keep up the local soccer routine that you have going on each weekend, and it might be perfect for that person. It's so different when it comes to rheumatoid. As we said right at the start of our conversation, every joint is and every limb is sort of guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, and like you said, it's so individual. I mean, it's like what you do with her is going to be completely different than someone else. Sometimes I start with knee problems. I often even start with working the shoulders. I don't even go to the knees, because of the crossover link, the chains that we work different areas. So it's like sorting like a problem is solving this like a picture. And as I get to work and as we work with this lady, you can see straight away actually where the roadblocks are, or where she's actually struggling and what's going on, and able to pivot and change direction. And so it's, I mean, just exercise again. I mean, you said it before. It's such a big part of that, coupled with diets and many other things. It's such a bit. It's an exercise as medicine, and that's the big thing. She didn't want to rely on medicine too much, Western medicine. So exercise is medicine in a sense.
Do people need to buy many things to work with you, such as equipment, expensive things, or are you able to direct them to some inexpensive resources for them to get started?
Yeah, no, you just need a chair, and you need there's elastic resistance bands, preferably quite light in the beginning, and then a lightweight like a 2 kilogram, maybe a 3 pound weight for US based clients. It's not heavy stuff at the moment. It's pretty simple. Yeah.
And have you sent her on her way now with a plan, now that you've been through your coaching sessions together? Does she now have a maintenance plan that you've given her?
Yes, she's got a maintenance plan that she does every 2 to 3 days, and then I've given her things that if she does struggle with certain pains or restrictions that she can do to loosen it up. It's really following. It's quite a sequence and order of exercise that she goes through, and in that 6 weeks we try work out. It's a recipe. So it's not only just the exercise, but what she must do, when she must do it. So there's quite a detailed plan that she goes through, and then I update it every 2 to 3 months. We'll be in touch, and maybe something needs to be removed, or stronger exercise, or a different pain.
Right. Yeah, different challenges do present themselves as you go. Well, Carl, thanks very much for this. It's been very informative, and it's really great to hear that you've got some, these you would call life-changing outcomes for people. The case study you've given us here is someone, as you said, who's had rheumatoid for decades, has probably got a lot of physical challenges that they've negotiated over the years. And to get her that level of results from only a couple of months is awesome. I also just want to say to folks who are interested, Carl's very affordable. Your pricing is set up to make it accessible to a great number of people who may not be able to afford their local physical therapist / functional movement expert. Your pricing, I believe, enables that for a lot of people. So please head over to carlreedercoaching.com and schedule a 15-minute call with Carl, which is completely free, just to see whether or not he'll be able to help you. And for all members of Rheumatoid Support, you're able to log in and inside our members area, ask Carl as many questions as you want. All the exercises are there. All the ways of doing things are there. So if you're not a member and you'd like to access Carl that way, it's a very, very, very effective way of getting help from Carl. Head over to rheumatoidsolutions.com, where you can join up and get help from not just Carl, but all of us, myself and the team. So thank you very much, Carl. And, it's always a pleasure to have you on here. And I look forward to chatting with you inside our support group, probably today or tomorrow. But I hope that also this has been helpful for everyone else to be able to learn, that there is ways forward, even with long-term affected joints, to be able to make significant improvements. So thanks very much.
Clint, thanks. Always a pleasure.